Frank.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Then if you let me, there you go. Let me tell you a little bit about us.
Oops, sorry.
Wrong direction.
Do I have something?
That's it. Great. Thank you. Sorry. We just want to make sure that you
I'm
all,
sorry. I think I have it on a set. Should have checked this before, but it's doing its own
right,
thing.
here, change it to,
Oh, well,
yeah. Well, let's try it this way and then I'll,
yeah.
okay, so we master gardeners. Sorry, you can see we're not always technical because we like being in the garden. But I did want to make sure that you all know that we're UC Master Gardeners, and kind of the interesting history of UC Master Gardeners is, as many of you know, the University of California as a land grant university has farm advisors that the research information that they create out of the university system, they take out to farmers, ag people, all throughout the state. And that's been going on for 50, 60 more years. But a number of years ago, the farm advisors found that they were getting lots of questions from homeowners, from home gardeners. And they said, you know, we're really supposed to be talking to the agricultural community. So they created the Master Gardener program in order to reach out to the home gardener. So we take that same research-based knowledge and information that goes out to the farm people, and we take it out to the home gardeners. And so we do, that's our focus, education, taking that knowledge out, and we do it through classes. We do it through a wonderful hotline where you can get answers to questions. So it's, you know, you hear from us quite a bit, and we're glad that you're here with us today to learn more specifically. We don't always know the exact answer to your question, but we will always tell you when we don't know, and we'll find out for you. So we do go through a complete training program to be able to do this. So and we then continue our education on a regular basis. So let me tell you about Candace. If you want to go forward one more, Candace.
Wrong direction.
Wrong direction, yeah. There you go. Candace is an amazing person. Candace was a master gardener when I came into the program, I don't know, too many years ago now, but she was already here. Candace has been master gardener since 2001, but she grew up on a farm and ranch. They had lots of chickens, they had other animals, and she now has 60 years of growing veggies and flowers and raising chickens. So you have a wonderful instructor with you today. She started as an interior designer, which we just think is a funny little place to start because you never know what's going to happen in your life and where you end up. She's not an interior designer anymore, but she does love to garden and she loves to teach, particularly other people, about chickens. So you're going to enjoy her. Go right ahead then, Candace, whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, thank you, Trink. The photo on the right side is a photo of me probably around 10 or 11 years old. I'm the one in the braids, I'm the older one. My sister is sitting next to my great uncle, and we are in my aunt's mudroom grading eggs because my great aunt raised probably over 500 chickens on a ranch in Washington State. My grandmother in Ohio also raised chickens for food and for selling the eggs. And so got used to being around chickens and a lot of roosters. Today we're going to talk about the different kinds of chickens that you can get at our local feed stores. We're going to talk about how they classify chickens, the breed, the variety, if you want brown eggs, white eggs, or colorful eggs. We're going to talk about picking up chicks from the local feed stores and bringing them home and raising them in your backyard. And then we'll also talk a little bit about keeping your birds healthy, and then we'll go into questions. Well, For me, right now I don't have chickens, but I had a bad case of them for about 30 years. When I got out of school, I wanted to raise chickens, and there was an ad in the paper for some chickens in San Jose. I went over there, took my little boxes for each one of the birds, and I was going to buy three, two hens and a rooster. And the man took my money, grabbed the birds by their legs and threw them into a gunny sack, and then handed me the gunny sack. And that was my introduction to birds. They were full grown chickens, and I raised them. I had fertile eggs. I traded them with a woman that gave me regular eggs, and she actually hatched them out. And in the Santa Cruz Mountains, she started raising Barred Plymouth Rocks, which was a very unusual breed in the probably late 70s. Hens are wonderful pets. Once you raise them, you'll give them names. My first group of 6, I used leg bands, and that their leg band number became their name. So for a long time, I had number 6, who was a great chicken. She was a barred rock also, and lots of fun. Hens do a lot of pooping in their garden or their yard. You can use that manure for your garden. You want to take it out and let it cool off a little bit before you use it around your plants, but it makes wonderful nourishment for your plants. The nice thing too about hens is that they eat all of your leftovers. So when you're cleaning out your refrigerator and it still looks halfway decent, better than maybe the compost pile, take it out to your hens and they will love it. The American Poultry Association classifies chickens as chicks up to about 8 weeks old. They become pullets after that. And then after a year, you can call them a hen, although I've always called them girls. I've only had one rooster, that first batch of chickens that I got. After that, I've always made sure that I buy chicks that are females. And, and then there is a classification called a capon. This is one that you're going to find probably on a dinner table. In purchasing your chickens, you might want to think about what you want out of a backyard chicken flock. Do you want just birds that are laying eggs, like a Mediterranean breed? This would be the Safeway type of white bird. They're a smaller body, but they lay an awful lot of eggs. Meat birds are larger birds. They typically grow faster than the laying hens, and they're ready for a market a lot faster. A lot of people, when I started doing this chicken talk, only wanted to focus on laying breeds. They didn't even want to consider what to do with either roosters, or the chickens got old and they became a roaster. They just didn't want to talk about that part. But now I find a lot of people seem to go for both laying and meat breeds. My favorite is the dual purpose, only because maybe it's the breed of classes that are a breed of chicken that's in this group. They're American and English for the most part, and they're bigger birds. They still lay a lot of eggs. 250 is nothing to sneeze at. And because they're larger, I think they're calmer, they're hardier, they're just lots of fun. In this group, you'd find the Barred Plymouth Rock, the Sex Link, which is a combination of birds, breeds, the Orpingtons, Rhode Island Reds. Oops, sorry. I'm going the wrong way. Oh, sorry. Chicken breeds by the American Poultry Association, there's about 7 of them. The American and English class are probably the ones you're going to find at our local feed stores. The Barred Plymouth Rock, sometimes you come across a Jersey Giant, New Hampshire's, Delaware's. I think Scotts Valley Feed is actually bringing in some Cochins and some Brahmins. And then they also have some in the continental class. Now, the American and English all lay brown eggs, and the continental lay white eggs. And you can tell from their earlobe. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo that shows their earlobe, but it's a white earlobe, and that means it's going to lay a white egg. The English class, originating from England and Australia, is another heavier bird. Again, some of these are my favorite, the Orpingtons, the Asterdorf, just fun birds to have. And then if you're getting into chicken raising and you want to show the birds, you might start thinking about the ornamentals, the bantams, and pretty much there's a bantam breed of every bird, every breed that you see. You can get into the game class, the orientals. These are very fancy feathered birds. And then this another standard that doesn't fit in any of them are just called other standard breeds. This is where you're going to find the bird that lays the colored egg, the Araucana or the Americana. Once in a while, you'll see naked chicks or naked neck chicks at the feed store. They're a very strange looking bird, but because they really do have a naked neck. Some people, when they go to the feed store and they look at all the chicks, they go, oh, they're so cute. You know, let's take a bunch of them and bring them home. But you also want to think about what size coop you're going to have. So you don't want to overcrowd your coop, and you don't want to get just one, because chickens are social animals. They need another friend, just like most birds like to have another bird around. You'll notice when they are chicks that one starts feeding, they all run to the feed. If one wants to water, they all go to the water. So they are social, stick together type of birds. But you also want to think about how many eggs do you want for your family? Do you have a big family and do you want eggs every day? Do you want to be able to give eggs away to your friends and family, which is always fun? If you live in a neighborhood, giving eggs to your neighbors it makes for a good neighborhood, because your birds will start clucking and letting people know that they're laying eggs. So when they do that a couple times a day, if your neighbors have eggs, they will start smiling about it. And when you look at all of these chicks at the feed stores, do remember that they, just like cats and dogs, they are going to get much larger. Locally, we have a lot of good feed stores that are carrying chicks right now. Scotts Valley Feed probably has the largest selection of birds, of chicks right now. They are having another group come in on Saturday. I think it's the 8th. It'll be the next slide. They have a good selection, and they send you home with a little purchase list of what you purchased, how old they are, what you need in the way of feed for them, so that when you get home, you're ready for them. General feed and seed, last couple of weeks, we're down to just a couple of pullets, meaning they were about 8 weeks old, and they were one particular breed. They weren't sure they were going to get any more. Westside Feed will be keeping ordering chicks all the way through November, which is a long time. It's pushing it as far as the weather for putting your birds out when they're 6 or 7 weeks old. You're putting them out in December, which is could get rough. But anyway, they are bringing in chicks. They have a good selection. Mountain Feed has stopped ordering chicks for the season, and I'm not quite sure about Tractor Supply. Here's the list. So May 8th at Scotts Valley Feed, I would suggest that you be there before 8 o'clock. They sell out almost every time they bring chicks in. And like I said, they will send you off with a checklist of what you need and what you needed to buy while you were there. So before we get into the actual chick care, does anybody have any questions, Doug?
I'll answer. There's nobody posted, but if someone would like to ask a question, they could.
Oh, okay, sure.
Any questions anyone wants to ask? Okay, I think you're ready to go, Candace. And
Okay, good.
again, to please put your questions. Oh, there someone has posted one. Food scraps. Do you need to make sure there's no meat in the scraps?
Oh, no. Chickens are omnivores, meaning they will eat meat and vegetables. They will clean a turkey carcass off quicker than you can believe after Thanksgiving, unfortunately.
Little omnivores, aren't they?
They are omnivores, boy.
Yeah. And I had a question, Candace. You mentioned about knowing the color of the eggs for one chicken by their ear. Is that true?
Yeah. I think the chickens that lay brown eggs are going to have more of a pink colored earlobe.
Okay.
Definitely the ones that have white are going to be laying white eggs. Interesting, huh?
It is interesting. And another question's come up. Can you mix breeds and different ages? Good question.
You can certainly mix breeds. And when you go to the feed store right now and you pick out your chicks, you can get one of each, and that's just perfectly fine. They're all the same age. They're all going to get along. There is a problem when you mix different ages, and that gets into the pecking order of chickens. There is a pecking order within, if you bought 6 chicks, there'd be one that's top dog or top chick. And when you mix the birds, the older birds are going to peck at the smaller birds. And there are ways of putting in fences, introducing them slowly. You would introduce them at nighttime, putting them on the nest, on the roost, I'm sorry, at night, so that when they wake up, they're all together, and they may not even realize that there's another bird in there, but more than likely they will. And they peck, and the new chicks have a tendency to stay out of the way of the older birds, but that's a difficult one because it seems like every year you want to add more chicks to your flock, and then you go through this kind of pecking order until they get used to each other. And when the younger birds grow into being a bigger bird, then they kind of fend for themselves.
Is there a minimum age at which you should introduce a young chick into a group of older chicks?
They should be at least fully feathered so that they have something to defend themselves, not a little baby chick. The only exception is if you have a brooding hen, a hen that is laid a clutch of eggs and maybe has hidden it somewhere. If you live on some property where they can do this, a hen will go off under a bush every day, lay an egg, and then eventually go over there and start trying to hatch the chicks out. You can take that brooding hen, put her in an egg box with some baby chicks under her at night, and the next day she will think they are hers, and she will take care of them. But so you want to make sure that they're fully feathered when you introduce them. Introduce them at night, put them on the roost, in their coop, and cover your ears. No, it's a little brutal. You know, they do peck at each other, so you can put a fence in between and just let them get used to each other.
Thank you, Candace. I think we're covered all the questions so far.
Great. So now we're going to get into the actual chick care. This is you're picking out your chickens. You've decided how many you're going to get. You want brown eggs, yellow or green blue eggs, or maybe you even want the white eggs. We're going to talk about a brooder, which is where your baby chicks are going to be raised in your home for the first 6 weeks, maybe a little longer. As soon as you bring those babies home, you're going to start thinking about the design of your coop, where you're going to put it, how you're going to clean it, which goes into the design. Think about water and feeder for your birds outside, what the life of a first year hen, and then what to do with your girls when they get sick. So always be ready to bring your new ones home. You want your brooder set up. You want your heat lamp at the proper temperature. You want water and food in your breeder before you bring your babies home. If you look at these slides, these are little fuzz balls. They have no feathers, and you have to be the one providing the heat for them. And you do this with a heat lamp inside their little brooder. And a lot of, well, it hasn't happened lately, but a lot of little Easter chicks end up at the shelters. And every once in a while, you may be able to find a young bird at the local shelters, but only buy as many chicks as your full-size coop can hold. When you bring your babies home, you also want to take a look at your garden, look outside. Have you been using any pesticides for bugs? In which case you want to stop doing that, because when you get your birds, your babies raised, and you're starting to let them outside, and you can let them run into in your yard, they will sample everything, bugs, earwigs, snails, anything that moves, including worms out of your compost pile. And you don't want any pesticides on any of those. Also, eliminate the use of herbicides. If you're using grass killers or weed killers, just let your chickens out, and they'll take care of that for you. They do eat grass clippings, vegetable trimmings, anything that's in your refrigerator, they love, with the exception of the hard vegetables like celery, onions, turnips. You can cook a lot of the vegetables, and of course they would eat them, but as far as raw hard vegetables, they'll give it a peck, but that's about it. So with your brooder kit, you can either buy one or you can make your own. This one happens to be through Stromberg's, which is a big hatchery in the Midwest. And they have a wonderful catalog that has everything that you'd ever need for poultry raising. But this little kit has a corrugated cardboard in the back there, heat lamp, a water, food feeder, and then a thermometer, just so that you can keep track of the temperature in your little brooder. You can also do it yourself. This is a master gardener, Delise, who does live in the Live Oak area. She made her own, and this is cardboard boxes. There's the little chicks she brought back from Scotts Valley Feed with the infrared heat lamp, and she's got a water and a feeder, and then she provided a little cardboard box just for them to get into a different little space. Very easy to construct. Mine were in the dining room, which was off the patio. It was convenient, lots of good light. I've also raised them in the bathroom. So your brooder can go anywhere, but the important thing is that it's close enough that you can keep an eye on them, because these guys are just day old to 3 days old when you're bringing them home. So you want to make sure that they stay warm and not too cold, that they always have clean water and food. When you bring your babies home, you want to make sure that they're kept at the right temperature. Again, these little fuzzballs have no way of regulating their temperature. They're dependent upon you. And you want to keep their brooder around 90 to 95 degrees. And you do this with the heat lamp. You can raise the lamp up if it's too hot, or you can lower it if it's too cold. By having a thermometer inside the brooder, you can check the temperature. And each week of these little chicks' lives, you're going to raise the heat lamp up and drop the temperature by about 5 degrees. Here's a handy thermometer. This one was from Mountain Feed. They have another one that's a rectangular one. Does the same purpose, and of course it's a little bit more expensive, but a great stick up for inside your brooder. Another way of checking, and this is probably the best way, is keeping an eye on them. When you look down into their little brooder, are they all huddled under the heat lamp, which means it's too cold, or is it too hot and they're, like on the right hand bottom side, they're away from the heat lamp. What you really want is the little chicks to be able to roam around your brooder, not that it's that big, but they will roam around and just feel very comfortable. With little chicks, you'll find that when they get tired, they just drop. They fall on their sides, their head goes out, their legs go out. They look like they just died. It's really fun. And they do that for the first probably week that they're around. And, and then after that, then they start sleeping, sitting up. But they're really cute when they're just brand new and they just need to take a nap. You want to size your water and feeders for the brooder. These are smaller scale. Brooders typically aren't very big, which is why you can keep them in your house in a cardboard box, or the Rubbermaid containers also work well. What you want to do is make sure you have pine shavings down on the floor of their box, not cedar, because cedar is too aromatic for them. It's not good for them, but the pine shavings are perfectly safe. They absorb all the moisture and you can easily clean it up. And then these little feeders and waters have little holes so that their little heads can go in, get the water, get the food without taking out all the food. Because as soon as these little guys are hatched, or little girls, I should say, they love to scratch. That's the way that they get their food and look for food, is scratching. And so this prevents them from scratching all of the food out into their brooder. It just keeps it cleaner a little longer. You're still going to have food all over the place. And you're also wanting to clean out the brooder probably every day. You want to make sure that they have enough feeder space that each one of them can feed at the same time. Again, they're social animals. When one goes to the feeder, they all look around and go, oh, we're hungry too, so we'll go to the feeder. And then if you can get it off the ground, the box or the Rubbermaid, just lift it off with maybe a saucer, a flower pot saucer or anything. It doesn't have to be very high, just again, so that only their little head gets into the little openings, and it'll keep your box cleaner. And then again, just everything needs to be clean. When you come home from the feed store, you're going to have a chick starter with you. This is a really fine grain combination of grains that's really high in protein. So these guys are growing and putting on feathers at the same time, so that they really need a lot of protein. You can supplement their diet later on, maybe after the second week, with a little bit of lettuce. Just make sure that they don't get diarrhea. If they do, back off on that. But for the first week, stick with the starter mix. And then as they get older, you can go into the pullet grower. And this is when you're going to start putting them out into their chicken coop. You're going to take your chick starter and just phase it out mix it with your pullet grower, and then eventually get into the pullet grower. And then as you get, as the girls get a little bit older and you want to get into the lay feed, again, don't throw away your pullet grower, just mix it in with their lay feed. And at this point, between pullets and hens, you're really going to want to feed a lot of good greens and vegetables to your birds, and as well as any table scraps. You don't want them to be too fat, but they love all of that, and it goes into making really colorful yolks for your eggs. You'll find at the feed stores you can now buy organic food or conventional. You'll pay more for the organic food, and Just depends on, what your preference is. You're going to be eating the eggs. Some people eat their birds, so they want to eat organic. That's what they choose to do. But there's a lot of choices these days. When I started raising chicks, there was only just conventional food. As you're planning for your chicken coop, you're also going to plan for larger water and feeder containers. And this is because just like kids that grow out of their clothes, the chickens are going to grow out of their brooder feeder and waters. And you're going to want to change the water less and maybe give them more food for maybe a week at a time. The galvanized containers in the center hold up to about 5 gallons of water and maybe, I don't know how many quarts of feed, but it means that you're changing the food less. Again, you want to keep these off the ground so that the chickens aren't taking their feet and getting into it and scratching it. The plastic containers are really good. However, they have a tendency in sunlight to grow algae a little bit more, so you're going to clean those out more. In both cases, though, you're going to want to clean your feed and your water. Your water probably more often than anything, just because of the algae growth that occurs during the summer. So the big time is coming. They're going to someday make it out of your house and into their own. You can do this when they're fully feathered, about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. You can start putting them outside in an enclosed area. I would put a top over it so that the raptor birds that are flying around also feeding their babies don't feed on yours. But a nice day, nice sunny day, let your babies get out and enjoy a grassy area or part of a garden. They're just going to want to scratch and have fun, and they run around. They're so cute. They're just really fun. If you get your chicks now, at 6 weeks, it's going to be summertime, and it's going to be plenty warm to put them out. And if you have your chicken coop and run ready, you can put them out during the day at about, I'd say 3 weeks. Put them out there, but bring them inside because it still gets cold at nighttime. If you're thinking about your chicken coop, if you live in the city, which is where I live, you're going to look at your backyard or your front yard. And in Santa Cruz, there's an awful lot of chicken coops and front yards these days. I think there's one up on Miles Street off of Mission, which is kind of cool. Go watch them. But you're going to probably look at your backyard and look at the far corner and say, wow, that's a great place for a chicken coop, which it might be. But you also want to consider your neighbors. All of a sudden, when you're putting your coop next to the fence line, your neighbors have chickens. So you want to be concerned about that. Most cities have setbacks for buildings. And in Santa Cruz, I think it's about 5 feet on the side and backyard. So if you are looking for that far corner, at least pull it off the fence line by about 5 feet. You should be fine. The important thing is that your house really should be really tight, solid, tight, well ventilated. This is an area that this is a house that your birds are going to live in. The coop is what I define as where they sleep at night and where they lay their eggs. It provides weather protection during the rain. They can go into that. And then the run, which is shown in this slide, which is a fully enclosed wire area, you can actually leave your chickens in the run and the coop during the day if you have no other space for them outside, and know that they're completely safe. This particular coop and run has the hard surface roof on it, which is good protection from all of the weather elements. The coop provides a warm shelter. It shows an egg box off to the right-hand side, which is nice for people to be able to access the eggs. And then be able to step into the run, and inside the run is where you would have your water and your food. A lot of people bring running water to the chicken coop, and there's some great waters that don't require you to lift up 5 gallons of heavy water to change it, which is nice. And also, when you're building your chicken coop, are you a family that likes to go away for the weekend, in which case you want to make sure that your coop is large enough and your run's large enough so that when you go away, they've got a place, a comfortable place that they can walk around and enjoy, and have water and feed without having you be there. You might also want to consider locks on your doors, the egg box and the run, so that maybe some kids don't get into your yard, into your coop. A lot of people will put the small run and a chicken coop inside a larger penned area away from the garden area. And the chickens have the entire, during the day, they can have the entire area. They will go in at night, and then you can just close the door. The important thing is that the chickens are protected at night. They do need to be inside in cities. In my area, we have coyotes, raccoons, skunks. They not only come from above as a raptor, birds of prey, but they will dig under the coop. So I really recommend a really heavy duty wire under your chicken coop and small run, so that they're protected from that. There is a seedy side of chicken raising, and that occurs at night. In my neighborhood, we have lots of rats, and they will feed on any of the grain that's left at night, and they will gnaw through wood, plastic, anything. So put your grains and all of your feed into galvanized containers. Inside the chicken coop, you're going to have roost. This is where the chickens like to go to sleep. If they were out in the wild, they would be sleeping in trees, providing they could get up into them. Some of our larger breeds probably can't fly that well, so they would have to be staying on the ground, but the lightweight birds would all be in trees. You want to provide a 2-inch pole for the roost. You can use tree branches, or you can use closet poles, work really well. 2x4s are a little rough because they're rectangular. It's kind of hard on their feet, their toes. They should be about 10 inches apart and start around 10 inches off the ground. Depending on how many hens you have, you want to 4 or 5 hens could share one box. And sometimes if you had even 2 boxes and you had 2 hens, they'd still be in the same box trying to lay an egg. So who knows why they like one particular egg box, but they do. And if you see that, it's not a big problem. They can work it out and share the egg box. It's best to provide at least 3 square feet per bird for your coop design and run. Again, I recommend enclose top and bottom, make it really secure. This one shown has a little door for cleaning out the coop, which is really nice. And then of course the egg box there is very accessible. And then during the day, if there's a door on the chicken run, you can open up the door and let them have access to all the grass. Again, check with your city about what the setbacks are and your neighbors. Hens really aren't that noisy. However, when they start laying eggs, you'll find that one will get into the egg box, lay an egg, come out and say, "I laid an egg, I laid an egg." And then the other one will go, "She laid an egg, she laid an egg." Before you know it, you've got the whole flock saying, "She laid an egg, she laid an egg." And it gets a little noisy. They're just enjoying the fact that they laid an egg, and then they stop. Unlike a rooster who will crow most of the day saying, "This is my territory, this is my territory." Anyway, they do make a little bit of noise when they lay eggs, and it's a nice noise. Inside your chicken coop, though, you're going to have egg boxes, and you can decide if you're going to build it yourself, or you can actually buy these galvanized boxes, or you can even build just regular wood boxes. Again, here's in this photo, there's the egg box or the egg boxes are accessible through the coop. This one looks like a condo. You've got two different flocks maybe sharing in a common space there. But you want to build your boxes based on the size of birds that you're getting. If you're getting the larger breed, you want to have a larger box. And again, if you have a small bird, a smaller box. This is because they use their legs when they're laying their eggs, and they push against the box, so it makes it a little bit more comfortable for them. Provides clean straw in the box, and always keep them clean. Now, when you introduce your flock to the chicken coop, the first probably week, you're going to want to take your chicks, your pullets at that point, and put them on the roost so that they know where to sleep. You want to close your egg boxes off from them. If your coop has an egg box as part of the design, you do not want to encourage the chicks and pullets to sleep inside the egg box, which is a bad habit to get into, because it's so much like the brooder that they were in. It's so comfortable. It's much warmer than sleeping on a roost. And they just get used to going into that box. But you only want to use the boxes for egg laying, not for sleeping. There are a ton of chicken coop designs. If you've gone on the web, which most people will go on and look at, research their chickens, research coop designs, breeds, different colors of eggs, that thing. You'll get into all kinds of plans. And Backyard Chickens is a great website, and it has 13 free coop designs. This one, there's a Morris Minor up at the top right, which is an interesting way of using a car. But all of them seem to incorporate the coop and a run, and fun designs. You know, if you wanted to make it look like your house, you could. Sky's the limit as far as the designs are. Just make sure that you're building it sturdy, as tight as you can, with this, durable materials, because even though they're chickens and hens, they kind of abuse. They can just beat up things by pecking at it, and what they do is they poop, and that gets into the wire and just deteriorates things a little faster. Chicks are up to about 8 weeks. They're chicks, and then we call them pullets until they're about a year old, and then they become hens. I actually call them girls, but all the time. So technology, or the actual word is pullet or hen. But there's an old saying, April chicks, September eggs. That's about 150 days from the time that they hatch, that they'll start laying eggs. And when they do start laying eggs, they will be pullets, and they'll be smaller eggs as they start out. And as they get older, they'll start laying a larger egg. I've always loved the smaller eggs, and I've managed to save quite a few of them because I just think they're so cute. Again, I mentioned when they start laying, when they're out in their coop, you might want to put an egg in the egg box. At that point, you can open up the egg boxes for them. They'll start looking around and start making funny noises. They don't quite know what's happening, but if they see that egg in an egg box, then all of a sudden it's going to be, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's why I'm walking around like this. I need to lay an egg. The first year, they'll lay a lot of eggs. They need about 14 hours of sunlight, and this is our summer. And then as the days get shorter and winter comes on, they'll maybe taper off the first year. However, a lot of birds the first year just keep on going. Winter does not affect them. You'll find that raising your backyard hens, you'll get a lot brighter colored egg, yolk, that is. And the colors of your eggs will be, whatever breed that you've selected. So if you've got kids and you like to go out to the egg box and you like to see green eggs and blue eggs and brown eggs and white eggs, it's a lot of fun to have different varieties or different breeds of birds in your flock. The food doesn't affect the yolk color, so the more greens you give them, the darker the yolks, the brighter they are. Just means that you've got some healthy birds, and you're not going to be able to find these kind of eggs in the store, which are very pale colored yolks. First year of a hen, she won't molt. She's got brand new feathers. She just got them, this spring. So she's going to hang on to those feathers, but the reduced sunlight might reduce the number of eggs that she lays. So don't be worried that, in December, she's only laying one egg every week or maybe two eggs. It's just because of the reduced sunlight through their eyes into the pituitary gland. But the next summer and fall of their life, they will molt. These feathers have been there for a year now, and they need to change feathers. And typically they will reduce or stop laying so that they can produce feathers. It takes a lot of protein to make feathers, just like eggs. So they decide which one they're going to do. Most of the time when they molt, they do stop laying eggs. The bird at the top is a Buff Orpington, and she's going through a molt just on her breast. Some birds will lose feathers kind of evenly throughout their body, and others will just do big patches. And it's nothing to be alarmed about. It's just that they are going through their molt, and in a couple of weeks, they will be fully feathered. When you go through the molt, you'll find that they drop their feather, and then right behind it is a little long pin feather that's going to grow out and then open up. It's really interesting to watch. I just mentioned hens lay on about a 25-hour cycle. It takes that long for an egg to be produced in their body or to go through their reproduction parts. And you'll find that a lot of chickens will lay in the morning, and then some will lay in the afternoon. Some of them will all lay at the same time. And again, they may choose to select a different box, or sometimes you walk in or walk out into the chicken coop and they'll all be in the same box. It's nothing to worry about. We talked about that. Again, keeping your birds clean and healthy, your coop clean, and the girls will stay healthy. On a nice hot day, you'll find birds will get into the sun. They'll start using their feet to create a little bowl. And what they're doing is making lots of fine dust and a little spot for them to get into. And then they will lay down in it, use their wings and their feet, and take all of the dust up and throw it into the undersides of their wing areas. What they're trying to do is clean the feathers with dirt, of course, and possibly get rid of any mites or lice if they've got them. This is a great little recipe if you've got some time. Putting it in a little wood frame or a plastic box and setting it into the ground will keep it a little bit more together. Otherwise, you'll find that all of this will go all over the yard. When the birds are also taking a bath, it's time to start thinking about cleaning up the chicken coop at the end of a long summer. You want to remove all the litter, the straw that you've got in the boxes and maybe on the floor. There'll be manure, other debris, leftover food maybe. You want to scrape and get rid of everything that's on the surfaces, the wood surfaces. Disinfect and wet the surfaces, scrub them down with water detergent, and then hose it all off. Let it dry. Again, it's going to be a nice hot day, so it'll dry, and then you can put your girls back in. So there's a checklist for cleaning and disinfecting poultry enclosures. Chickens are really incredible. You don't have to take them to the vet every year like a dog or a cat. You don't have to give them vaccinations. Although some of them do get vaccinations when they come out of the hatchery for Marlick's disease. Avian flu, every once in a while goes through. It's brought through by wild birds. And again, if you have a hard surface or a wire top over your run, you're going to reduce the birds coming into your run and eating the food and maybe spreading disease. Lice and mites are probably the most common. And again, they're brought in by other birds. For the most part, your flock won't get them just being by themselves. But you might see them under their wings, and you can use dust, or you can make a little bowl of dust and then put some powder in there and let them take care of it. Or you can do it yourself by lifting them upside down, putting the dust under their wings, taking care of them that way. If you're going to a poultry show, of course, you're going to give them a bath with soap and water. So that takes care of anything. In 2019 and 20, Newcastle's disease was very prevalent in Southern California, and it wiped out a lot of not hatcheries, but the actual poultry growers. It's highly contagious. And if you had one or two birds, of course, they had thousands of them, they had to dispose of their entire flock. So it was a very bad disease. It's highly contagious. It's spread by people going from bringing Newcastle's disease into your flock, usually spread, just by walking through a contagious area and then into another area, contaminating. So biosecurity is really important when you're raising chickens. Keeping it clean, keeping it, just clean. Coccidiosis is kind of like a cold. Sometimes in the wintertime, you might find a bird that looks like they have the cold, maybe have diarrhea. What you're going to do is isolate that bird from your flock. You're going to notice that they're ruffled, they maybe have untidied feathers, they haven't been preening themselves. They move away from the flock. Again, they're social animals, so when they move away, you know something's wrong. Look at their comb and their wattle color. Normally it's a bright red pink color, but if it turns darker and they're sneezing, maybe they have diarrhea, it's really time to get rid of them out of the flock. I usually put them in a cardboard box, give them water and food. Go to the poultry store and feed store, and you can find remedies for colds and coccidiosis. Or if you're really concerned, there is a vet here in Santa Cruz, Hillary Stern, who does treat poultry. When your birds are laying eggs, one thing that you want to do and you have control over is keeping the eggs clean and not spreading salmonella. You want to always wash your hands with soap and water after you handle the eggs. Bring the eggs in every day if you can. Don't let a large clutch build up in a nest, because the next bird coming in to lay an egg might break an egg with their toenail and or crush it with their weight, and then it soils the straw inside the nest, and then also might encourage hens to start eating their eggs. Once they realize that what they're laying is really delicious, it's a really bad habit to break. They will peck at an egg if they see that there's anything kind of crack in it or even a piece of dirt on it. They're just curious animals. So make sure that you're always picking up your eggs, bring them in. I like to put them in the refrigerator. If they are soiled a little bit, find sandpaper, a brush, or a cloth. It usually takes care of it. Don't wash them because that has a tendency to pull the bacteria through the egg. Well, it's rain day weather. We have not had any rainy days this year, or very few, but I like to order catalogs and I just browse through them. I've got one, Stromberg's. I love them because they show you what the chick looks like, what the male and the female of that breed looks like, and gives you a little overview of do they lay brown eggs? Are they big bird? Are they high strung? Just lots of good stuff. And it's a lot of fun to just browse through them. I'm hooked on poultry catalogs and of course garden catalogs. So it's great reading. I'm also a member of the American Poultry Association. While I haven't had backyard chickens in years, I still like this organization. I think they're great for 4-H and for people who want to get into breeding purebred breeds of birds. They hold poultry meets several times a year at various places. The last one we had here was in Lodi, and it was the first one in a year, which was great because of COVID-19. They had over 1,000 birds, and it's just really fun to be able to see the breeds of chickens and how nice they all look. There actually is a standard of every breed put out by the American Poultry Association. So it's a nice organization. If you've got kids who are involved in 4-H, I'd recommend that they join this group and learn from everybody in this group. We're going to wrap it up now. We've talked about the different breeds, what breeds lay what colors. You want big birds, little birds, meat birds, or show birds. We've talked about raising chicks into hens, the coop design, chicken runs, how to protect your birds from the elements, both weather and other animals, and then what goes into raising a pullet to a hen, and then how to keep your flock happy. Being a master gardener, I like chickens because they really are a complete cycle of backyard compost recycling. They, you eat their eggs, you give them vegetables and scraps, and again, they make the manure that feeds your plants, and it's a great cycle. And now we're at the point of any more questions.
Yes, Candace, well done. And there are a few questions. So let's go back a bit to the brooder. And you had recommended pine shavings. One person said that he actually put down rice straw in his brooder. Is that okay to do? And
yeah, rice straw would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, anything but the cedar shavings because of the aroma that it puts out. It's just too strong for the little birds. Do not use newspaper, shredded up newspaper, because it gets wet and it can cause the little birds, when they run around, to lose traction, and then they kind of like pulling a ligament in their leg, they will get what's called splay leg. So anything but newspaper and cedar shavings.
Great. And a clarification, one of your slides said something about when you introduce the chick to your chicken house, to put it on the roost. And your slide said that, but you didn't, you noted.
Oh, when you introduce your chicks for the first time outside, this is the transition from your house to theirs. You want to do it at nighttime. You want to make it so that they don't realize they're being they're being left out of the house. And you put them on the roost because that's where they're going to sleep. You're going to do it at nighttime because they're going to fall asleep. And it's kind of less traumatic. They will wake up and they'll go, oh, well, I guess we're here now. And you're going to have to do that for the first probably week to get them used to sleeping on a roost in their coop. Mine always liked to, because they came in, they were raised in the dining room off the patio deck. Whenever they were free in the yard, the first thing they did was climb those stairs onto the deck and into the dining room. So they knew exactly where they were raised.
And you would take them and put them on the roost, right?
Yes, yeah.
Great.
And again, the first week, do it at nighttime.
Yeah. Okay, and then just to double check that they don't really need a lamp when they get full grown, do they? Once they're in the coops?
No. Once they are fully feathered, they're not going to need that heat lamp. And your brooders going to become very, very small. And you probably want to do an addition to your little condo, which is what I call them. If you start with a cardboard box, you just add another cardboard box with an opening, and they get a little bit larger space until it's time to put them out into the chicken coop.
Yeah, great. Okay.
But they won't need the
heat lamp, yeah. Now, here's a rather, I'll just read you this. It's about the size of the coop. I recently got 5 hens and a rooster. The birds are in an enclosed area of 20 feet by 10 feet. There's a rabbit hutch with a second story of about 2 feet by 18 inches and 18 inches tall. Is this big enough for all 5 hens to lay eggs?
The run sounds fine. It's the hutch area that sounds a little tight.
Okay. And he says, I had them for a week now and they've been laying between 2 to 4 eggs a day in that little space, but you'd recommend maybe a slightly bigger space for the laying.
Yeah, I don't, you've got is it a roost and the egg boxes in that same space? Because that sounds a little tight if it is.
Harry, would you like to, you asked this question, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi. This is Priscilla. Yeah, this is my son's computer.
Oh, got it.
The enclosure is a chicken wire surrounded enclosure of 20 feet by 10 feet, and then the rabbit hutch is one of those 2-story small rabbit hutch, has a second story of about 2 feet by 18 inches ish. So the 5 hens were, they are a year old. They're about exactly a year old hens, and 1 rooster. So I haven't built anything for them to sleep on, but in the evening, they just go ahead and fly up to the roof of the hutch, and they just gather there to sleep. So I was just wondering, my main concern was I probably need to build something for them to sleep on, like a tree branch.
Well, if your run is completely enclosed, does it have a wire top on it too?
Yes, it has a wire top, yes.
Okay, but you want to, in the wintertime, you're going to want to protect your birds and allow them to get away from the weather. So you instead of sleeping on top of the rabbit hutch, they need to sleep inside something.
Okay.
You've got plenty of room to build a chicken coop inside that run.
Okay.
that would have the roost in it, and then you could put the egg boxes in. It sounds like it's really tight, but you notice they all want to jump up and sleep up on top.
Yes.
So, yeah. So if you provided a coop with the roost, I think they'd be happier, and you'd be able to give them a little bit more room.
And understand,
Okay.
Priscilla, that the roost is, you know, a 2-inch round like dowels. And you mentioned branches
Like
here. Yeah.
Yeah, branches,
Mhm.
Okay, so
but
because
it's,
Candace mentioned that the 2x4s are kind of not a good way to go, right?
no, it's a little too rough. You know, you've got to look at their legs, their feet, and their toes.
Uh-huh.
They want to sleep on something round. A
Oh,
lot of people, the only reason I mentioned 2x4s, a lot of people have 2x4s in their backyard and they go, well, that's a perfect roost, but it really isn't as far as the shape.
okay.
So you want something more round. It's more comfortable for their feet,
Okay, I
more
see. And then,
natural.
okay, and I also read about that they need to be about the same level so that they don't fight over the whoever gonna sleep a little higher than the other.
Oh, they will fight still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is an order to how they sleep on the roost.
Oh, okay.
And you can't tell them who's who. They will tell themselves. They'll work it out. But start your roost at 10 inches above the floor, and then another 10 inches high, and then 10 inches away from that first one. I had a chicken coop design that had a little porthole window at the top of the roost. And there was one, top girl, and she got the window, and you could tell that was a primo spot.
Okay.
But she would come out, when I would come out of the house, she would be there at the window, and she would start squawking, she's coming, she's coming.
Okay.
They're just funny, but there is a pecking order to how they sleep on the roost, who sleeps next to each other, and
Oh,
they'll work it all out.
okay. So it sounded like the roost does not have to be very high above the ground then.
No.
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
It's,
you start
okay.
at 10 inches and then go up from there. But
Okay,
again, you
great.
want to, plan on, each bird takes about 10 inches in space. So I don't know how they're all fitting on top of a rabbit hutch.
Oh yeah, since there is a rooster, I figure the benefit of having him is he's supposed to keep the order.
Well, yeah, he will.
Oh, thank you so much for the answers.
Yeah. Okay, Candace, also, Deborah has asked us, she lost 3 of her flock of 6. The 3 barred rock all died within a month, flu-like symptoms. Remaining 3 sex-link are fine. Can she add an additional hen? Certainly sounds okay, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Deborah, you might just want to make sure that your coop is nice and clean after that you've lost those 3.
Yeah.
Thoroughly.
Does she know?
I have to say, that Garvin keeps that coop very clean.
Okay, hold on.
He cleans it every day.
Okay, great. I hear you, Deborah. Thanks. She said she cleans it every day. So,
Oh, good.
and Deborah is another master gardener, so we can talk more. So, Sierra asks, can you recommend any resources for identifying, eliminating mites? We've already been to the vet and tried ivermectin injections.
Ooh, mites. Sorry,
How about just providing a good dust bath for them, like your recipe?
I think the recipe would be good, but boy, that's a tough one. Normally you can get rid of them with the powder, and boy.
Sierra, would you unmute yourself? Has your vet given you any recommendations on that?
Yeah, so we do have a good dust bath set up. It's pretty similar to your recipe. It's 1 part soil, 1 part ash, and 1 part diatomaceous earth. they also during the day get full run of our fenced in backyard, and there's lots of dusty areas that they like to bathe out there too. We weren't able to identify them at the vet because the mites seem to be living more on the coop than on the hens. So
Oh, I
we
was
couldn't
gonna-
actually find one on the chicken. But they're like, when I touch the coop, they're crawling on my hands. And so we've tried like spraying down the coop with just water and with all the like garlic oil and dish soap and, you know, all the
I-
things you read about on the internet.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to get something a little stronger than that, and definitely clean it and scrub it really good. And you might have to um, scrub it and clean it enough that you won't be able to put your birds into it for a day or two. You know, just that probably is the source of it. And because those guys are in every crack and every nook. And in the egg boxes, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
So,
what we've done at the moment is we blocked off the egg boxes, hoping that'll help.
well, I think though the mites have just kind of taken over though. So I would give the coop and everything a really good hosing off and scrub. And maybe use something a little stronger. I can't recommend anything, but go to Backyard Birds. They might have some recommendations.
So in other words, use maybe even some kind of a chemical a pesticide to kill them, but then keep the birds out until
Yeah,
that
I
disappears.
hate to say it, but mites are really tough to get. If you're not seeing them on your birds, but you see them in the coop, then that's going to be a real hard one to get rid of. And I think you're going to need something stronger.
Good luck,
Okay.
Sierra. Sorry.
Thank you.
You know, as being a master gardener, I don't like to use that kind of stuff, but when it comes to, they're going to infect your birds, and it's probably in their house, everywhere in their house. So you've got to treat the whole house, everything in there.
Yeah, we always say as master gardeners, it's not that we say never use chemicals, but only use it as a last resort.
Yeah.
So just to reduce the load overall. So sometimes it's necessary. Can you address, Candace, giving antibiotics to sick birds? Any comments about that?
Boy, when I first started, antibiotics were rampant. You could give them for anything, and you could go to the feed store and buy it. Again, I don't like to use them. I would use them as a last resort, but you always want to treat just the bird that is sick, not the entire flock. So if you suspect that you've got a bird, you know, it's a puffed up feathers, it's listless, it might have diarrhea, pull it out of the flock, treat the water, because it's typically a water soluble antibiotic, and keep the bird away from your flock for about a week, and it should perk up after that. You can get the antibiotics at the local feed stores, like Mountain Feed and Seed sells it. But again, it's keeping your birds healthy from the start is really the best thing.
Good. And another question about space. This person saying, how much room per chicken? I have a 4x4x5 coop with a 12x4x5 run. Sounds plenty big. I think you had recommended, what, 3 square feet per chicken? Is that what you said?
Right, at least 3, yeah. So I think that sounds fine. There's a coop that was sold at Costco that was probably 4x4, and they were saying 6 chickens could live in it. It's like, oh boy, that's a tight area, but this one sounds good.
Yeah. So how many would you estimate in there for, like, would that be about?
Oh, you're taxing my brain.
I know. Yeah, if you can do the math, 3 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay. And water, sorry, were you going to say? So
No, that's
another question, water nipples versus water troughs. Do you have a preference?
no. I always use water troughs, but you know, it's just your preference. chickens will get used to anything, you know, and if you're conserving water or you want it a little bit more clean, probably the chicken nipples, if they can do that.
Okay. Pros and cons, huh?
They're, you know, we think chickens are dumb, but they really are pretty smart.
They don't have chicken brains. I heard somebody say that. And here's somebody who's going to be a first-time chicken mom. Congratulations. She's going to get chicks vaccinated for Merrick's disease. Are there other vaccinations they should get?
That's probably the big one. I think you can vaccinate for coccidiosis, but a lot of times they'll do that in a hatchery. So she should check with where she's getting her chicks to see if they've been vaccinated at the hatchery.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that's all we have in the questions, unless anyone has any final ones. If so, let me ask you, Candace, to go forward a slide or two, because there's some things I'd like to end with. One, there you go. Just wanted to tell you that we do have an evaluation, because we always like to improve our presentations. So there's a link here, and I will also put it in the chat, or try to. But if you would just follow that link from the slide when we send it to you and give us an evaluation, that would be great. You'll also then get, in a couple of months, you'll get an email survey from our statewide Master Gardener program. And that's to really ask you how you used what you learned from this class. It helps us know, and the statewide program, in terms of fundraising, to be able to show the impact of our programs. Some other classes coming up of vermiculture, and we're also going to be starting a new Master Gardener program training class in 2022. And so you'll be able to apply for that starting this summer. So watch for those notices. Please tell us too, either in the chat or in the survey, what other classes you would like to see. We always like to know what else people are interested in, so we can create new classes. And go forward one more for me, please. There, and finally, I just wanted to remind you that we have a great Master Gardener hotline. You can ask questions about gardening or about chickens. And we have great Master Gardeners who take the questions, research them, and get back to you in a fairly short period of time. It takes us a few days. So send us photos if you'd like. Excuse me, but that's the link there, and you'll get this whole slideshow sent to you as well. So it looks like there's one more question. Is the coop and run the square feet? Oh, I see. It's a follow-up on the last. So are you counting both this coop and the run when you calculate the square feet, Candace?
Well, the coop should be the 3 square feet per bird, and the run can be a minimum of 3 feet. 4 to 5 feet is actually better. And actually the run can be as big as you want, because that's where they're going to spend quite a bit of the time. So,
so 3 square feet in the coop.
In the coop, and then
Yeah.
go 4 to 5 in the run for a minimum.
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. It's a good clarification. And then I'm sorry, Candace has some also resources here for you to use when you get this link as well. So any final questions?
Yep.
Great. Okay, I think we've done it. Thank you all very much. I am very appreciative of everyone attending, and Candace, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks all. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.